Hi, this is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I want to show you this card that I made. It's a fancy fold card, but I'm using the Friends Are Like Seashells set, and this is available in the new catalog. And I'm trying to use products that I have on hand that you must have in your craft space that we can kind of create very easily with just paper, stamp, die cuts, embossing folders, and we're going to create this card right here. Isn't that pretty? So that is the fancy fold card that we're going to make. And we're doing it all with just cardstock. And I'm using, let me go ahead and pull out here. I'm using the Friends Are Like Seashells stamp set. I'm using the Stamp Emboss folder. This set does come with a die. I'm using that die. It is a bundle and it is in the new catalog. I'm using the folder. We're going to use a brush, a blending brush, because we're going to create this real pretty background. And we're going to use several inks. We're going to begin with Soft Seafoam, Pear Pizzazz, Mint Macaron, Just Jade, and Pretty Peacock. So those are our inks. And then I also have some embellishments here, and these are the opal rounds. So we're going to need, for our cardstock, you're going to need a couple of pieces of 11.5 or a couple of pieces of Whisper White, and I'll have all these measurements for you. Some vellum. Our base card is just going to be Misty Moonlight, and or you can use Night of Navy. I didn't have Night of Navy, so I'm using Misty Moonlight. And this is going to be our base card. So let's go ahead and begin by building the front of our card. And we're going to need several layers here of Whisper White, and again, I'll give you the dimensions. Let me show you the pattern. Here's my pattern, and I have all the dimensions here. So this is kind of what I'm going to go off. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to take this piece of vellum. I'm using our stamping cut and emboss machine to cut the vellum using the die from the Friends Are Like Seashells bundle. And once I cut my vellum with the die, I'm then going to take my Stamp and Cut and Emboss Seashells 3D embossing folder. I'm going to lay the vellum very carefully to match the lines on the embossing folder, and I'm going to go ahead and run that through the cut and emboss machine. And what that's going to do is going to provide some really nice texture, some dimension to the front of our card. Now we're going to take our basic white cardstock and we're going to cut several pieces. One piece is going to be a matte piece that is going to go on our Misty Moonlight. The other piece is going to be our basic white piece that we're going to color. And you can see I have the dimensions there, and I'm just going ahead and making sure that the dimensions match my model. And then we're going to cut another piece, and this is what is going to be the inside of our card. And this piece is 5 1/4 by 8 1/4, and that is the inside part of our card. We're also going to cut some acetate that we're going to use as a stencil in order to create a bubble effect using our blending brushes. And I'm just using random sizes of with some punches. The bubble effect is going to be created using our blending brushes and the different inks. Now, in order to create our background, you're going to just grab some scrap piece of paper. You're going to tear it into some irregular shapes so that you can apply the blending brushes. And in some cases, you can even use scissors. So there you see the beautiful background that was created using our ink pads, our blending brush, and our acetate stencil. You can also see that the blending brush cleans perfectly well when run under water with some soapy water. There it is right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to assemble the front of our card. We're going to use our beautifully inked piece of cardstock. I'm going to apply the vellum. I'm going to use some glue dots, but I'm also going to use the fine tip glue pen just to make sure I get some of the wayward pieces. And you'll also see that I may trim some of the pieces that may extend beyond the card, just to make everything kind of neat. So always feel free to go ahead and trim anything you need. Now we're going to create the cuts and creases needed for the inside of our card. I have ensured that it is scored in the middle of the cardstock, and I have used my bone folder to ensure that crease is secure. I'm going to align the left side of my cardstock to 4 1/4 inches on my cutting board, and then I'm going to put my blade down and I'm going to cut from 1 1/2 to 6 3/4 or 6.75. And then I'm going to realign my cardstock and I'm going to put the left edge at the 1 inch mark, and then I'm going to cut at the same 1 1/2 by 6 3/4 or 6.75. And this will create these inside cuts for my cardstock. I'm then going to go ahead and I'm going to put my cardstock on my scoreboard. I'm going to begin by scoring between the two cut lines at 1 1/2 by 6 3/4 on both sides. And then I'm going to score above and below the cut lines at 2 5/8 and 5 5/8. There's also a score that's going to be at 2 6 2/4 to kind of create that small little fold. And when we create the mountains and valleys, you'll see I just basically put some tape because I had overcut on my on one of my when I cut it on the cutting board. Now when folding it, you want to make sure that you crease the score lines using your bone folder, and the top will be the mountain folds and the center will be a valley fold, and now that is what is going to create the inside of your card. I'm then going to adhere it to the inside of my base card. I am using multi-purpose glue on just both sides of it's kind of a C shape there, and that is going to give me a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that my center fold is aligned to the center fold of my base card. Now to create the embellishments for the inside of my card, I'm going to grab my die again. I'm going to use some Whisper White or some basic white cardstock. I'm going to cut that using my die and emboss machine, and then I'm going to grab the photopolymer stamps from my stamp set. I'm going to use the same palette color that I have been using to stamp these shells. I'm going to cut these shells out, and I'm going to embellish my the front and the inside of my card. Okay, so now that we have all the pieces and parts stamped, and I've cut out the little pieces of seaweed, and I'm just kind of trimming them because I'm going to use them as well on the inside. And I'm just going to kind of lay out some of the shells that I want to use on the inside. Kind of layer a little bit with some of the seaweed. Trim it so that it fits, and that fits nicely right there. I'm using, I believe it's Pear Pizzazz and the Pretty Peacock colors. Again, just playing around with the with all the different shapes, and just coming up with a nice arrangement. So there we go. I'm going to use the all-purpose glue, as well as a couple of pieces. I believe I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop up on dimensionals. stamping our sentiment that we're going to put on the outside of our card using our Memento black ink. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm using one of my punches, just kind of punch a label for that, which we're going to adhere to the front. I have that nice 2" by 3" piece I'm going to put inside. You're going to use some dimensionals to kind of pop that up on the front of my card. It looks nice there. What I like to do is I like to use my scoreboard and kind of frame my cardstock there for the inside where my sentiment is going to go, and then adhere my the front of my card. I'm using tear tape here, and to just make sure I get it adheres. Since this is a fancy fold card, we just want to make sure that that sticks nicely there. And if there's any little pieces that are kind of sticking out, it's okay to trim those. Now finally, I'm going to use some of these beautiful little embellishments here to kind of look like bubbles as they're going up the side of the card. So there you go. Just a really neat card. This is a nice technique that you can use, but I just thought it was kind of nice just using our paper stamps, ink, and taking advantage of this beautiful die cut. I'm just adding a little bit of Wink of Stella just to kind of add some glimmer to my seashells on the inside of my card. You can even add it on the vellum and it'll add a nice little sheen. So 2 cards using the Friends Are Like Seashells, our embossing folder, seashells, 3D embossing folder, our inks, and our blending brushes to create just a really neat fancy fold card. Thanks for joining me. Please like and share, and happy stamping.